I'll take you back to the football side of things if I can, Mark, because football fans love to hear about how their stadium's developing, but they also love to know how the team's developing, and we've got a January transfer window coming up. The last time we spoke, I think back in February, we talked about building that recruitment team behind Kieran. We've had Sam Williams come in from Manchester United. The whole sort of staffing infrastructure has really sort of been boosted since we spoke. How are you feeling heading into that one? When did planning for this window start?
Probably the day after the summer window closed, if I'm honest with you. And I think the reality is we were whilst we were in the summer window, which felt like the longest window ever, by the way, we were talking about January at that point. And I think what you've seen is we made the decision in the summer to have a depth in the squad, and in that first probably 2 months of the season, probably not selecting the team, but maybe selecting the bench gave Kieran some challenges, because someone was going to have to be left off. And it was nice because in that first 2 months of the season, Andy Rolls produces a weekly performance report on all of the injuries, all of the strength and conditioning, etc., etc. And there were weeks where I've never seen it before, where Andy was producing 100% availability. Well, now you get into the winter months, autumn comes, and you've started to see a number of injuries. Had we not have put the depth in place, we would have had challenges. And that links into, for example, what players you loan out. So it would have been one debate, for example. One debate would have been, do we loan Cam Humphreys out? And in fairness to Kieran's thought process is, well, I want to develop him, I want to spend time with him, I want him with the team, and we're probably going to need him. Now, Cam Humphreys is starting every week. So you have to have that depth. And we've had a challenging run of injuries. Some of those are now coming back. But we know clearly the positions that Kieran wants in January. He's very specific. And I think what helps us going into January, probably more than this time last year, is the world now knows how Kieran McKenna plays. We've got 28,000 in fairly regularly, and we're at the top of the league. So, as I said to you before, this isn't about money. Sometimes it's not about the money in persuading a player to come here. It's, do they want to come into League One? That's always the challenge. But I think it helps us a little bit now that Kieran's settled, players know his style of play, clubs know that we're going to develop their players, if it's a loan player, for example, in a specific way, and they're looking at a team that's on a trajectory towards the Championship. So all that helps. So Kieran's very clear on what he wants. We're down the line on a number of those, as you would expect us to be, but a deal's not a deal until it's done. I think this fan base will know that myself, Kieran, the recruitment staff, the one thing they can expect is activity in January, and there will be activity in January.
Yeah. There's always a balancing act mid-season, isn't there, between upsetting the equilibrium, the finely balanced squad. Players will be returning from some of those injuries, hopefully, come January, but also not being left with any regrets at the end of the season. Can we strengthen from a position of strength? Is that the balancing sort of act that you're looking at as we head into January?
Yeah, it is, and I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I don't want to leave anything on the table. I do not want to be looking back at the end of the season going, if only, I wish. All we can do is make the right decisions at that moment in time, but it does bring challenges because we have a 22-man squad, which again, forget money, forget finances, we have a 22-man squad. So within that, he knows what he can fit and what we can and can't do. And we're going to have some tough decisions to make in that 22-man squad. Who's recovering from injury? When they're recovering from injury, do we leave them in the 22-man squad? Do we take them out the 22-man squad and replace them? And my job is, if you like, to listen to what Kieran has to say from a technical perspective and what he wants. I then work with the recruitment team. Again, I've said this before, I'm not talent ID. Recruitment team put the players to Kieran. They then come to me and Luke Waring to get these deals done and across the line. But I think we've got to make sure that we've got the depth in key positions, because come Christmas, come January, you've seen it now. These games come thick and fast, and right now we're still in cup competitions. We've got to keep going. So I want to make sure we've got the depth to get us through.
What are the challenges of being Ipswich Town trying to acquire players at the moment? I think Kieran's spoken about false kindnesses and tricks and traps. A lot of other people talking about what you can and can't do as a football club at the moment. Do you feel like that when you go into negotiations, there's some zeros being added to things? Is that a challenge?
No, for sure. And I think Kieran's comments, without going into individuals, are right. But we're too long in the tooth. We see right through it. And to be honest with you, I think our fans see through it as well. We've said this all the way along. Let's just concentrate on what we do and be the best at what we can do. Let's stick to his process. Let's believe in the process, and that will take us where we want to get to. I think from a fan's perspective, what I'd like them to understand is we don't have a January transfer window, then it shuts, and then Mark focuses on the stadium, and then gets back involved in the January transfer window. We're working all the time. We're networking all the time. This week I'm off to see 3 or 4 football clubs at ownership level. That relationship building is happening all the time. So when we want players, the door's open. So we're communicating with the key agents all the time about what our pay structure is, what our wage structure is, what Kieran's looking for. It's an ongoing dialogue all of the time. It doesn't just stop and start. Let's be really clear. It always starts because we are Ipswich. We are perceived as a big football club. We are perceived to have some good level of finances. In any negotiation, people then start with the dial way over, and it's my job to bring them back to a sense of fairness. And I think thus far we've done okay with that. I'm not a fan of January transfer windows. It's always difficult, but I think again Kieran's really calm. He's really considered. He won't be rushed. Knows what he wants, and he won't do something for the sake of doing it. Has to make us considerably better.